Hello and welcome everyone to another Knights of Last Call live stream. My name is Derek Melinda. Hopefully everyone is doing okay out there in the lands today of YouTube. I am stupid. I would say very stupid. I had a root canal done today. Not just a root canal, by the way. It's actually a fixture of a old root canal that I had done. And so they had to drill into the side of my mouth. So this is my freezer pack that I've been keeping on my chest, on my chin. So if I sound a little it's because my mouth is all swollen. But, you know, the show must go on. Looks like we got some of our usual suspects in here. K-Swiss Stack, Lollipop Candy, Pillsbury Goat, Bernardo, Silvato, Sa Volray, and of course, coming back, I haven't seen him in a while, Mr. William Brandis. Did they give me the good drugs? No. Ibuprofen. That's all I got. Henry, how's it going? Henry, a fine adventurer. Hey, Frosty. Happy root canal day. So what you're saying is I am not... no, I'm saying I'm not actually on drugs. I just had... some Novocaine for the procedure, and then some ibuprofen for when we get done with it. So, that's what we got. So, but yeah, good stuff, fun times. But here we are, and we're here today to talk about. We're here to talk about spells. We didn't finish them last time. To nobody's surprise, actually. Because we got distracted by a lot of things, so we're not going to get distracted today. So for those of you who are new here, which is I don't think anybody, I recognize everybody mostly. Brothleth, hey, what's going on, Brothleth? As the Stream Elements bot just told you, you can go ahead and show your support for the Knights. You can use a link in the description below, or you can type !tip, and that's going to give you a link to our Stream Elements page where you can send us a tip. And today's goal is next week. Myself, Smith, Tim, and Bob are going to be going down to Columbus, Ohio, to take place in the Origins Game Fair, which I have not been to in probably about 4 or 5 years because of many reasons. Made it out to Gen Con a bunch of those years ago. COVID was a big part of it, but it's exciting for us all to be down there, and we're going to bring some of our equipment. And we were going to do some podcasts because some of our Patreon members are going to make the journey. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe we'll try. Maybe we'll bring some extra stuff. Maybe I'll schlep down a camera or something, and we'll try to do a live stream or something while we're down there. So today's goal is in support of that. If we can reach it. I don't think there are any level 5 arcane spells to fix root canal. They would probably be a divine
Jason
spell.
B tipped $10. In full transparency, we were crunched for time when we got to the higher level spells, so some of these may be accidentally fun, just as a warning. Our bad.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Yes, if those are the people who complain that I was shitting on earlier spells, the spells at the later, the latter levels have been better, for sure. And I think, generally speaking, we've been giving better results to the higher level spells. So, there we go. My window, my was down a little bit. Who else do we got in here? Dylan, what's up, buddy? Hey, KC, welcome. Yeah. You come to me with a spell on the day of my wizard's birth. And you asked me to do damage for money. You do this without respect. I'll give this to you as a gift on the day of my root canal. San Clemenzo. I don't want anybody to be torn apart. All right. It's a great movie. One of my faves. What is up from Montreal? What's up, Mathiao? I've been to Montreal a couple times for Magic tournaments. I like the city. The Paris of North America, I believe is what it is called. And I enjoyed it. I played laser tag there. I don't remember where or how or when, but I did play laser tag there. All right, folks. Well, looks like we've got about 20 people in here. So we're gonna get into it. I think we're gonna get into it. All right, here we have our spells, our lovely, lovely, delicious spells. So as a reminder, this is where we're started off with. We had a couple of good A's and B's. The chromatic spells have continued to disappoint. That was our single solitary F. And then we had some of these sort of AoE DOT, that's damage over time, base spells like Acid Storm and Cloud Kill. there was a lot of debate on these, but overall, I think we just kind of decided that, you know, it's too easy to move in Pathfinder 2. And yes, there's a awesome situation where you get somebody incapacitated or something and you get them into that AoE for a number of rounds. But honestly, they'd have to be there for sometimes 3 rounds or more just to even do more damage than a fireball or a cone of cold. So at that point, you're really asking a lot for it. It's just not good. You know, Cloud Kill moves, but it moves directly away from you. It doesn't have any control over it. And, you know, sure, it's got a little bit of flavor because it moves like it used to, but at the same time, it also used to just kill things. So it's already a little bit less, just a little bit more disappointing. So yeah, let's get into it. We got False Vision. So we got a 10-minute casting time spell, Uncommon, Illusion, Arcane, Occult. And it's a touch range, which goes 100 feet burst, and it lasts until the next time you make daily preparations. So ostensibly, this is a cool spell. It's going to last all day, big area. But the problem is, this is going to create a false image that fools any attempt to scry in an area. Note that this area does not move with you. So any scrying area sees, hears, or smells, otherwise detects whatever you wish in the area. And you can sustain the spell each round if you want to change the illusion, including playing out a complex scene. If the scrying spell is higher than the level of your false vision spell, the scryer can attempt a perception check to disbelieve the illusion. Though even if they are successful, they cannot truly learn what's going on in this area. Spell's good. And this spell works. Doesn't have a needless counteract check. I like that, if you want to make it complex, then you need to be spending actions. But other than that, it just lasts all day. 100-foot burst is a wide area, enough to, cover a very large area, adventuring site, a complex fort or keep or tower. And I also like that if the person is casting a higher level scry spell, they're not automatically hosed by it. But at the same time, it's still not going to just defeat what you were trying to do, which is to hide your intention. So even if they can determine that what they are seeing is an illusion, they can never learn what is going on in the area. And that's cool. That's good power. That's useful. This performs. Now, this is much better than our previous spells. Now, obviously, being anti-scry protection means that this is, borderline GM area. So at the same time, though, I would say this. Don't use this spell if you're a GM. Please, don't ever use this spell as your GM. You might say, oh, it's a GM spell. Don't use this spell. Please don't. Ever. The only thing worse, this goes back to like critical failure checks on recall knowledge, right? Don't lie to your players. I like B for it. It's going to perform well for you. It's definitely a step above from what we've come to expect from these kind of effects. I like the mechanics of it, and for a fairly complex spell, it's short and to the point, and I think it does good work. So I like it a lot. Howdy, Anthony. All right, next up, we've got Flammable Fumes or Inflammable Fumes from Secrets of Magic. It's a 3-action spell. So we can expect that it's going to create some sort of conjuration or cloud. And it lasts a minute. It's 120 feet, 20-foot burst. All right. You send magic deep into the underground and conjure a cloud of toxic gases that swiftly degenerate into volatile fumes. They are invisible, and they require a successful perception check to detect visually, although their smell and toxic effects are clear once they enter the cloud. So basically, they're detectable. A creature that enters the cloud takes 2d6 points of poison damage. And they can only take it once per round. 1 round after you conjure the cloud, the gases lose their stability, become flammable. And if an open flame is brought into the cloud, it deals 10d6 fire damage. Wow, this is not good. So basically, it's a bad fireball that has a lower range, and it takes place 1 minute later. I mean, I guess this is like what, a trap spell? But it only lasts a minute. So like if you know that an enemy is about to turn around a corner, you cast this spell and it's kind of nasty, and then they have the flame, and then they take 10d6 damage, and the spell ends. But, I mean, again, a fireball at this level does 10d6 damage. Right? That doesn't seem very good for me. It's also 3 actions. Great point, William Brandis. I'm going to downgrade that to an F. I hope you're feeling good. GM Scott, I don't feel great. I mean, Lug, you just described Pathfinder 2, really, when you think about it. The design idea sounds fun, but it's clunky in its execution. Yeah, it's literally a natural gas leak. I mean, Sicken plus Fireball would be nice. I agree, Lug. I think that would be actually a really cool effect, but that is not what we got. Flowing Strike. All right, another 3-action spell. Boy, they really went ham on these 3-action spells in Secrets of Magic, huh? Oh, it's because this one lets you move. Okay. A wave of water pushes you around. You move 50 feet, and it does not trigger reactions. You ever wonder why that is? Like, why is it that if I like walk by a fighter, or stride by a fighter, or run by a fighter, they can swing at me with their sword as I move past them. But if I'm, moving on a curtain, if I'm surfing a wave, they're like, fuck me, I can't do anything. Your cowabunga, tubular action, dude, is just too much for me. It's the same thing with forced movement. Like, forced movement, to me, makes the most sense for provoking or triggering a reaction. Like, if I'm consciously, like, moving backward, or I'm consciously retreating, I mean, I get attacked in Pathfinder 2, but because the idea is that, I'm moving through them. But if I get, like, knocked over and stumble out of somebody's area, then they don't get to attack me? That doesn't make a lot of sense, doesn't it? Boy, wouldn't shove be a lot better if that was the case? Hey!
Pillsbury Goat tipped $15.
Thanks, Pillsbury Goat. I appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much. Again, I apologize if I sound a little wonky. I had a root canal today. Actually, I had a surgical repair to a root canal, so... Womp womp. Okay, Flowing Strike, sorry. Thank you, Pillsbury Goat. You're the goat. Very generous of you. Thank you so much. And we're already at $25, so thanks, everybody. Yada, yada, yada. Join the Patreon. It's awesome. Yada, yada, yada. If you feel like throwing your money away, join our YouTube channel. Become an adventurer. Get a cool green name and a cool loyalty logo and cool emojis. Don't you wish that you could flood the channel with Jason B? That's amazing. That's awesome. Very, very, very cool. All right, so you move 50 feet, and then you make a strike. If your strike hits, the wave flows after you to batter the target of the strike as well.
Henry tipped $10 for your next bottle of ibuprofen. Feel better soon.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Bottle of ibuprofen. Yes, that's what I'm going to call it, too. I know, it's kind of surprising they didn't give me anything stronger, right? So if the strike hits, the wave flows after the batter, and they deal 2d10 and pushes it 10 feet in a direction of your choice. Fundamentally, by the way, that's kind of wonky because, like, shouldn't it have to push you, like, away in the direction The wave is flowing. This is obviously a Magus spell, because it's a strike. Because you're basically doing a stride, what we'll reasonably call a quick stride, and then you're basically doing like a power attack, right? Where you're doing an extra damage strike with some extra damage riders on top of it, with some extra effect riders on top of it, and it's taking you a 5th level spell slot. So that's asking a lot. I don't think this spell is particularly incredible or amazing, but it plays. We'll put it at a C. It's 50 foot of movement, strike, 10 feet. Again, you have to hit. They don't get a save, but you do have to hit. If you miss, it's if you miss, you just moved. You spent 3 actions and a 5th level spell slot to move 50 feet. By the way, that's what you get if you miss. So don't miss. What did you do this round? I spent all my actions to move 50 feet. Oh, cool. Oh, and I lost a 5th level spell slot. Sweet. All right, here we go. I think we have to grade it strictly on the basis of a Magus. I think a wizard would basically never cast this spell. Both left, that might be true in technicality, but I can't speak for your game. But my cleric has a speed of 45 feet at this relative level of the game. Most people pick up fleet. A lot of people pick up an item bonus to their speed. And a lot of people either use trick magical item or have access to primal magic to get a wand of Longstrider, which gives you a +10 status bonus to your feat. A lot of people are sitting with between a 40 and a 50 movement, especially at the point where you're casting this spell regularly. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to cast a spell if it's your highest level spell. Yeah, Magus is suck, Gabriel. You could have just typed that. I mean, Maguses might be cool if you're only like fighting once or twice a day. Yep, exactly, William Brandis, exactly. All right, well, here we have an oldie but a goodie. No Bigby, but it is Bigby's Forceful Hand. If you ever needed proof that role-playing games shouldn't be taken seriously, in the middle of your... Imagine Lord of the Rings if, Gandalf had just cast a gigantic disembodied floating hand. Here we have it. 60 feet range, 2 actions, sustained up to a minute. And we get a medium floating hand appearing adjacent to you. Follows you across the battlefield to shield you. Every time you sustain it, it moves to an unoccupied space of your choice next to you. And when you sustain it, you can have the hand fly to an unoccupied space of your choice adjacent to an ally to protect that ally instead. And of course, the hand's movement does not trigger reactions based on a creature's movement because, again, flying hands apparently don't trigger reactions as well. It's got some armor class and hit points. Who cares about that? Wow, we got a lot of text on this spell, boys and girls. Okay, because they put all of the spells into this one spell. Okay, I get it. Okay. The hand's actions and the cover it provides depends on the action. At the end of your turn, what the hand does is determined by the first entry on your list. Oh, sheesh. So if you did a manipulator attack, it gives you lesser cover. And if you move, it gives you standard cover. And if you concentrate, it gives you greater cover. I mean, circumstance bonus to AC, movable cover. No, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's only 2 actions. You do have to sustain it, though. That part sucks. When you heighten it up a level, instead it gains a swat. So if you manipulate or attack, it will fly to your enemy's choice within range and try to push them. Who cares about pushing them? Heightening to 7 will grapple them. Now we're talking. Grapple's pretty cool. That's actually very useful. It's a grapple check too, so you could even restrain them if you crit. At 8th level, it's finally doing damage, and it's force, and it doesn't contribute to your multiple attack penalty. And then at 9, it grabs them and does damage to them. So it's kind of following that up. I think being sustained is pretty rough on this spell. So, because most of the time as a spellcaster, right, you're sustaining this spell. I mean, I guess, you know, I don't know. Well, the problem is, when are you concentrating that you're not manipulating, right? Because you think, oh, this means when you cast a spell. But see, it says, at the end of your turn, what the hand does is determined by the first entry on this list that matches a trait from any of the actions that you used on your turn, right? Well, if you cast a spell, that's manipulate, so it's going to be a +1. So, like, if this made it so that if all you did on your turn was cast a spell, and you didn't move, and it gave you a +4 bonus to your armor class, that would be pretty cool. I wish this was worded differently. Actually, a lot differently. Then it would be really awesome. I do agree that people do get, you know, auto concentrations and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But I like the spell scales. It does some cooler stuff at higher level. I don't know. Probably C. All right. Our next spell is the Geyser. I think, Luke, if you were strictly saying at higher levels, maybe I would say it's a B, but I think as written it's a C. That is a good question about, does it say you can only sustain? Here's the problem, Dylan. You can sustain it multiple times, but here's the problem. It only does it at the end of your turn. Yeah, but see, look, even if you use multiple sustains on it, it doesn't do anything on your turn. It doesn't even attack on your turn. It will never attack on your turn, I don't think. At least that's how I'm reading this. Because what happens is, at the end of your turn, what the hand does is determine first entry on this list that matches any of the traits. For example, if you step, stride, and then sustain a spell, you would use the entry for move actions. But even if you could multiply sustain it, it doesn't do anything until your end of turn step, basically. And then it does something. So that makes it a little bit wonky. Okay, Geyser. Big range. Wow. Okay. Well, we got to respect that. 2 actions, 500 feet. 10-foot radius. Still not as good as Fireball, but it is 50 foot tall. So that's kind of interesting. You blast them up, pushing creatures on top of it into the air. You have to cast this on solid ground. Each creature in the air takes roughly 76 damage. A creature pushed into the air by the Geyser can't be pushed beyond the top. After being pushed into the air, a creature falls, unless it has flying or other means of staying aloft. And if it's 20 feet into the air, so it would take 10 more points of damage, which is roughly equivalent to 2 or 3 d6 worth. So on a failure, 7d6 plus 10. It's probably equivalent to a fireball. But then everybody that got hit by your fireball is now concealed. And they're all concealed to you. Yes. That is true, GM Scott. That is very true. I'm surprised they don't. And as Pillsbury Goat points out, if a creature takes any amount of falling damage, they are knocked prone. And now keep in mind, on a success, they take half and don't get flung at all, so they won't be. But on a failure, they are taking fire damage, bludgeoning damage, and getting pushed for 20 feet, and potentially falling back down, taking 10 feet, and being prone. Yeah, they got the concealment and stuff, but that's pretty good, actually. And with the range that this thing has, that's actually really, really nice. Yeah, I don't hate it either. And it heightens. That's a good point too. GM Scott heightens well. Bad against physical resistance. That's true. A lot of the damage here is coming from physical. Does physical resistance apply against falling damage? It probably does. I'm assuming falling damage is treated as bludgeoning. I'm tempted to give this spell an A. It's got the range. It's got a nice radius. It's got a good area. Yeah, I think being able to do good damage at that kind of range and potentially knock them prone is actually something that you'd want, and it heightens well. So, you know, and depending on the nature of the, okay, it is bludgeoning damage. Great. Okay. All those people with cat fall are like, yay. Yeah. Good spell. Hey, sometimes it's the quiet ones, you know, you never see them coming. All right, Glimmer of Charm is next, and this one is from Secrets of Magic, and this is limited in Pathfinder Society. Ooh. It's got all the tags and all the traits. Concealed is a double-edged sword. I agree, Lollipop Candy. It's got Aura, Emotion, Enchantment, Incapacitation. That's the big one. Mental. 2 action, 20-foot emanation that sticks out from you for 1 minute. And you are bathed in a smooth, almost glittering aura that improves the attitude of those around you. Any creature that ends its turn must make a will save, no matter the result. Interesting. This would work against PCs. Am I right? Yeah, I think it would. Must be why it's limited in Pathfinder Society. All of you like me. So this is pretty cool. If the creature succeeds, it's still on the will save. It still improves by one step to at least indifferent, or if that attitude goes to at least indifferent, it can't take hostile actions against you. Although it does end as soon as you attack. Or your allies attack. Same thing with the failure. So it's kind of an AoE quasi-charm. I mean, that's kind of cool. It does stink that it's a hostile action against the creature or its allies. By the way, it's as soon as you take a hostile action. Yeah, so your allies could be sitting there wailing into them. I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's kind of like an AoE charm person. I agree, Damien. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty good spell. It does have incapacitation, though, so let's not get ourselves too excited. And it's mental, and it's emotion, and it's enchantment, and all those things. But, you know, I mean, this seems pretty good. I don't know. I kind of like this at B. This is a great way to just charm an entire room, basically. You know what, though? No, I'm going to actually roll that back. Because it's only going to last a minute, ever. Right? Like, the charm doesn't last. Doesn't that kind of suck? Like, this is a combat spell, I guess. I would have liked it better if it was actually, like, something that you could use in, like, a social encounter or something, but you kind of can't. It really is just like a fight type spell. I mean, I'll leave it at B. I think it still plays. I think it still plays pretty well. Just want to say welcome again, everybody, to our Knights of Last Call live stream. We're going over Arcane Spells level 5. I had a root canal today, and we are the Knights of Last Call. So welcome. Hope you enjoy our conversation today. A little bit more subdued because it hurts to smile. Grizzly growths. Well, Damien, to answer your question, remember though, to improve someone's attitude takes a minute. So, pretty sure. And I think it's an exploration action. So you can't do it while you're in initiative order. So, my guess is most people are going to do it like that. All right, Grizzly growths. Yeah, man, I'm trying. I'm trying to do it. I mean, I try to tell you that I was like awesome, but I kind of just didn't think it was going to be this bad. But we'll get some skill. Look, we've already gotten almost as many spells done as we did last time. We'll get a bunch of spells done. We'll probably wrap it up a little bit early today. But we'll have some fun before the weekend. Grizzly growths from the APG. 2 actions: Arcane, Primal, 60 feet, corporeal only creature, and it gets to make a fort save. Oh gosh, what are we doing here? This gruesome spell. Can I ask a question? I mean, and I mean this seriously. Why are there so many gruesome spells in Pathfinder 2? By the way, this isn't even a cult. Why are there so many gruesome spells in Pathfinder 2? Like, isn't this like, what is going on with these people? Like, what is going on with these people? Why is everything in this edition either just stupid and childlike or just gross? Like, I don't get it. Who are these people thinking? Like, they make an adventure, like, they make an adventure set in like a magic school in like this utopia version of Africa. They make this adventure paths around, a freaking carnival. They make leshies with little cowboy hats, but then they make spells like this. I don't get it. On the one hand, you have this like really beautiful ideal of like a great society, or you have this really fun and kind of cutesy wootsy race or whatever, and then you get spells like Grizzly growth. Like, where's the character art of your cute little leshy being hit by a grizzly growth? Anyways, I don't know what the hell's going on, Pillsbury. I don't really know. Honestly, I don't want to know. Magic is one of the most disappointing aspects of this entire system. The martial system is 10 times better. It's not evil, though, Total Entropy. It's not evil. This gruesome spell causes the target to grow excessive limbs and organs, whether they be fingers, multiplying until hands resemble bushes, eyes popping in bizarre places, legs sprouting from the sides of the body. It's body horror. It's just body horror. Anyways, the target takes 10d6 piercing damage. So one spell, 60-foot range, does as much damage as Fireball, which has a 500-foot range and is a 20-foot AoE burst. Cool. Not only does it have to work on a corporeal creature, it won't work on a creature with mutable anatomy or limbs. And I hate this spell. Can I do something here? I'll say. This is what a basic saving throw is. Okay? The idea is that this is a shortcut. This is a shortcut, and you get this standard template of effect. Right? We all know it. 0, half, full, double. Do not keep doing this, Paizo. Do not tell me that the saving throw for this is a basic fortitude save. Do not tell me that the target takes 10d6 piercing damage with a basic fortitude save, but then have things here which are clearly not part of the basic fortitude save template. Don't do that. I mean, I hate to say it, the spell's pretty good. Sicken is a pretty powerful effect. takes actions to get rid of, and they're not guaranteed. They have to make new saves. It's single target, but doesn't have incapacitation. The damage is good, even if it's not AoE. Oh, wait a second. I read this spell completely wrong. Okay, I read this wrong completely. The Sicken is an AoE, including the target, and it's a will save. Okay. See, like... I'm reading this spell. Yes, I just had a root canal. But I'm reading this spell in the middle of a chill... Number one, this spell is even more piezo now than it was ever, because now someone erupts into limbs and eyes, and then everybody within 30 feet of them starts puking their guts out. Old young guy's in the corner puking his guts out. Old guy in the corner is like, "Oh my god." Yeah. Yeah, it's your allies too, but I mean, AoE 30-foot will save Sicken 1 is fucking awesome. I mean, that's a great effect. And even if the initial target saves, only if they critically save do they not do anything. Yeah, it's a pretty good spell. Fuck me. Say. That one hurts. That spell's brutal. Alright, I'm not talking about that spell anymore. Yeah, so it's a single target for basic fort save, coupled with an AoE will save Sicken. Yeah, I'm starting to think that they don't have basic templates, proper templates for a lot of things Flame Loud. We've seen this time and time again as we've gone through these spells. Like, none of these spells are templated correctly. So I personally think the Sicken condition is extremely powerful. And I think an AoE Sicken condition is borderline nuts. There's no duration. It doesn't fade automatically. It's the same penalty as Frightened. It takes an action to get rid of it. And they could fail that. It's a save. It gives them an extra save. It's not automatic. And they can't drink potions. Which is such a random thing, but they can't drink potions. Let's see. Spell? I don't know what you're talking about. You mean Grizzly Growth? Yeah, Grizzly Growths is the spell. Sorry, it's right here. I don't think it's blending into the background. Oh, correct, Brothleth. The idea is that they can't drink potions because they're retching. They're throwing up. They're like, oh, right? You just AoE make the entire encounter just all be nauseated, vomiting all over themselves. I mean, the action to get rid of it comes from, the action's called retching. You're literally just sticking your finger down your throat and trying to vomit. One of my favorite things, hold on a sec. Let me look this up. Hold on a sec. I think this is true. If you're gonna spew into this. Yeah. Yeah, see? It's a single action retching. By the way, isn't it funny that this is not templated in any way similar to Pathfinder 2? Like, retching doesn't have any traits. You don't have any sort of, you know, any sort of effect. It's just kind of this random extra thing stapled onto the bottom of the effect. Anyways, Sicken. Good status. All right. Hallucination is our next spell. Yeah, retching isn't manipulate. Retching, it doesn't even do anything. Like, there's not even a thing. It's not, he doesn't have an action symbol. It's just kind of is there. Oh, okay, Swiss deck. They clearly didn't think about that with prone. There's a reason why maces and hammers and flick maces are so powerful. All right, hallucination is incapacitation and mental. It's 2 actions, 30 feet, so close range, incapacitation, 1 target, but it lasts an hour. You basically make someone see or hear something, or make them see whatever you want to see. You can make them see all elves as humans. You could make see their beloved pocket watch even when it's not there. You can make them see a tower. Basically, you can do whatever you want. So that's pretty cool. The target gets to make an initial will save with results below. On a crit success, unaffected. On a success, they perceive what you choose until it disbelieves, but it knows what the hallucination was. On a failure, they perceive what you choose until it disbelieves. And on a critical failure, so on a success, they perceive it, but it knows it's a hallucination. So kind of useless. Failure is good, and then on a critical failure, not only does it perceive it, but it trusts its senses, and it takes a -4 penalty to saves to disbelief. So that's pretty reasonable. They do get an initial will save. They also receive a will save to disbelieve the illusion every time they seek or directly interact with that hallucination. You know, let's take a little quick here. We've seen a lot of spells, especially in the illusion category, that reference seek, and reference seek, and reference seek, and reference seek. Is this an action that you are taking a lot, or that your players are taking a lot at your Pathfinder 2 table? If a player says, you know, I look at the tower, is that a seek? Is that a seek action? Are we supposed to be perceiving that as a seek action? Does that mean that someone cannot make a perception check against something unless it's within, what is it, 30 feet of them? Yeah, 30 feet. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what seek is, huh? Just see. I like, you know what, William Brandis, my good friend, Mr. Brandis is correct. Seek is the recall knowledge of your eyes. I see it. No, well, no, you don't. What do you mean? You failed your check. So what am I, blind? No, you forgot. What if Seek had like a critical failure and it was like, wait, it doesn't have it. What if Seek had like a critical failure and it was like, you lie to somebody. There's a bridge there. And you're like, Derek, is there any way across the ravine? And you're like, make a Seek check. And they're like, cool. And they, I'll roll it in secret. And you're like, yeah, there's a bridge. And they go, oh, cool, I take the bridge. You're like, ha ha ha, sucker, you critically failed. I was lying to you. You're like, what do you mean you were lying to me? There is no bridge. Ha ha ha, you only thought there was. Okay, sorry. Okay, so if they seek or directly interact with the hallucination, the target disbelieve the illusion every time they interacted with an elf, bumped into their brother, tried to study the pocket watch. The target can also attempt to disbelieve with a large circumstance bonus situations, such as if they try to climb the non-existent tower. And then, to be clear, I don't think it's that great at level 5, but, at level 6, it's 10 creatures, or you can do a single creature and change the duration to the next time you make preparations. That's really sweet. And at 8th level, you can choose to target it to any number of creatures, or change the spell's duration to unlimited, both of which are really, really, really cool. A lot of fun you could have with this. Very weird, mind fuckery stuff going on with this spell, and it's pretty cool. So I like the heightened choices. I like that it's like I could choose either 10 creatures, or I can increase the duration. I like that I can choose unlimited creatures or unlimited duration. So I think this is a pretty cool spell. I think this spell's a lot of fun. I think the spell feels very, when you think of like a high-level illusionist warping and shaping the world and realities around them, I think that's pretty cool. For sure. I like Reaper Grimm's thing. Critically failed seek checks are how people see Bigfoot. I could count on one time number of times the time seek action was taken levels 1 to 20 in my Age of Ashes campaign. Yeah. I've always had a hard time with spot checks, perception checks. It's like, if someone tells me that they're looking at something, I guess I feel like, don't they see it? I don't know. I mean, I like the spell a lot. I would probably put it into the A tier, but it has incapacitation. It's somewhat limited. It's level 5. It heightens really well, and I think really well. And I'm going to give it a B. I think it's a lot of fun. Still a fun spell, but it's going to be somewhat limited, and good stuff. All right, we got another illusion. A lot of illusions at this level. Illusory scene. Give it an A. Yeah, I mean the eighth level version of hallucination is very nice. All right, we got a very long range, long duration, big area, long casting time though, and it's got all the traits, and you get to form a completely imaginary scene that includes up to 10 separate discrete objects. 10 minutes though, why not a ritual? Nobody knows. From the spells in this game, you would think that Pathfinder 2 didn't have a ritual system, even though it clearly does. Actually, that's a great way to think about it. How would I structure this? William Brandis Smith has sort of talked a little bit about this, but it's separated entirely. Rituals are the spells of exploration mode, and whatever you want to call these, we could come up with a new name of them, are the spells of encounter mode. Right? So if a spell's casting time is 1, 2, or 3 actions, then that is something that, is really drawing upon your power. It's more of that sudden burst of energy that you need, and that's something that you can cast. And that type of spell is, what we would consider today call a spell, and that's something that you use in counter mode. Anything else that today would have a casting time of 10 minutes or 5 minutes, we just completely remove those spells and we make those into rituals. Booth B, we would also redo the ritual system as well. And basically you would just separate them entirely, and you would just have completely different abilities. It's a completely different set of spells and abilities. One would be your spells, and one would be your rituals. And spells would be used for encounter mode, and rituals would be used for exploration mode. And maybe you even create a third type, the rite, right? The rite? Question mark. You create a third type called the rite, R-I-T-E, which is for downtime. And so spells, rituals, and rites. Maybe you come up with another R term so that it all fits together. But that way, a rite is something like a rite of passage, right? Something that takes hours to cast, or days to cast, or potentially weeks to cast. Could be, earth shattering. It's the big bad thing that the NPC is casting. That takes them, it takes 1 month and ends on a full moon or something. That's a rite. That's like very much a plot device or a downtime device. It's something that a wizard could cast to shield an entire city behind a magical veil forever. It's like, why are we creating spell descriptions for that? Just make that a rite, and don't worry about what traits it has, right? And then you could have rituals for your exploration mode, and then you could have spells, what we call spells, for your encounter mode when you're on when actions matter. All right. So 10 discrete elements. They sound cells. They're incapable of speech. They do these things lack combat abilities. This is kind of cool. At 6th level, they can speak and they can do things, and at 8th level, the duration is unlimited. I basically see this as that, spoiler alert, for the second Spider-Man movie, with Tom Holland, when he is meeting with Mysterio in the bar. Basically, I see this as what this spell is, right? This is like a people version of hallucinatory terrain. I gave hallucinatory terrain a really good level and a really good rank, and I think this spell is cool as well because this lets you include a people creature element to the spell as well. It was Far From Home was the second one. Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. And of course, any creature that touches any part of the image or uses a seek action can attempt to disbelieve the illusion. And they disbelieve the entire scene only on a crit. This is pretty cool. B. All right, Impaling Spike. Hey, I want to say, by the way, thanks everybody for hanging out and chilling with me tonight. Looks like we've got close to 40 people in here today. Not our most, not our least. As a reminder, next Tuesday, that would be June 7th, will be the second episode of our actual play, Quest for the Frozen Flame. And then we are off to Origins. So next Thursday's live stream is probably on pause, on hold, because we're gonna be out there probably meeting with patrons, having some drinks, hopefully doing some podcasting with some of our friends and family. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So maybe I'm hoping to get some interviews with some people. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. All right, next up is Impaling Spike. Short range, 2 actions, 1 creature, but it lasts a minute. Of course, you conjure up a spike from the earth. Okay. I also want to talk about spells like this. So everybody kind of talks about RPGs and like hit points are this abstract concept. And they're like, no, hit points don't actually represent your character getting like chopped up or their head split in 2 or anything like this. Hit points are this kind of like mixture, this amalgam of like, luck and skill and like, yeah, that would have been fatal, but you turn it into a cut. It's only when that last hit point goes down that your character is now suddenly hit. They're dying. Then even if they get brought back, they're wounded, right? But then you get spells like this, which a spike thrusts up from the earth and impales you. It does 8d6 damage, which, quite frankly, to a lot of characters at this level would tickle you. But it impales you, and it impales you through the leg or other non-vital body part. But no, you just got impaled by an iron shaft that magically erupted from the ground. This is one of those spells that clearly it's a metaphorical impaling, says Gabriel. Yeah, what the hell's going on here? All right, so this damage sucks. If they succeed, they take half. If they fail, they take full, and they are immobilized. And they have to escape. And that's pretty good. By the way, I like that if you fail, you get immobilized from the You get immobilized and you're immobilized. But if you get critically failed, it's through a vital organ and you're flat-footed. Oh my God, it hit me in the heart. Now I'm flat-footed. I like that if I get hit in my leg, literally my foot, literally my leg, I'm not flat-footed. Like if a giant magical spike of cold iron erupted from the ground and impaled me through my leg, the idea that that somehow would not affect my armor class is so laughable. Yeah, Reaper, I mean, again, here's the thing. I'm okay with hit points being an abstract concept, but spells like this clearly take that idea and sort of turn it on its head, because it is very clearly dealing damage to you while physically ripping through your body. So it's kind of wonky. The damage is a little bit low, but a duration immobilize is very nice, I will say. I like this spell at B. The range is a little short. You're definitely going to want your reach spell for this spell. That's a great question, Flame Loud. I just don't try to explain hit points. This is something else that we were talking about on the Discord, by the way, the other day, which was this idea that, we were talking about maps and we were talking about how, in my experience, as players get higher level, you want the battles that they are fighting, they want to 30 feet is short. It covers almost all Puzzle's battle maps. Well, and that's exactly my point, GM Scott. As you get higher level up, you start gaining the ability to fly. You gain the ability to teleport. You gain 30 foot, 40 foot, 50 foot, 60 foot movements, 80 foot movements. People are hasted. And in my mind, the creatures become large and then huge and then even gargantuan. In our Pathfinder 2 campaign, we're 13th level going into 15th level. We're fighting huge monsters all the time, gargantuan monsters all the time. We just fought a fight versus 4 huge monsters. The battlefields have to get bigger. They have to get bigger. When I used to play 4th edition, I had a rule of thumb. We had these things called tactiles. And they were basically like dry erase boards with a grid on them. And it was roughly 40 feet by 40 feet. So 8 squares by 8 squares. 10 inches by 10 inches. 8 inches by 8 inches. And they had little puzzle pieces on the side so you could connect them together. And when the group was at low level, I usually would use, maybe 1 or 2 of them for a battle. And then when they were in their mid levels, I would use like 3 or 4 of my tactiles. So now you're talking about a battlefield that's like 80 feet by 80 feet. And then at Epic, when we got to like the very highest levels of the game, I mean, you had battlefields that were, 150 feet by 120 feet, huge battlefields. But at that level, the characters were riding dragons and flying on magic carpets and using their boots of speed to move, 150 feet, right? The battlefield evolved. It feels a lot of times like things in Pathfinder 2 do not evolve. And I've noticed this is a big problem. I mean, my cleric has, their AoE heal, which is 30-foot radius. It's like that once upon a time that covered the whole battlefield, but now it doesn't. And I feel like a lot of these ranges should increase, or at the very least, something like Reach Spell should add 30 feet if you are meta-magicking, I don't know, a level 1, 2, or 3 spell. But if you're meta-magicking a 4, 5, or 6 spell, it should add like 60 feet or 70 feet or 80 feet or something. And if you're meta-magicking a 7th, 8th, or 9th spell, maybe it should add 100 feet or something like that. I just feel like it's kind of silly that, in my mind, the size of the miniatures, the size of the battlefields, the scale of the battlefields, what's at stake in these battles, the simple abilities of the characters are going to basically demand that you are going to need a much, much, much larger battlefield. And none of these spells increase to boot. It's kind of disappointing. Tier says, I love my tactiles. Yeah, we bought them long time ago. The original tactiles, they kind of got messed up after many years of use. And then we bought these sort of imitation ones that came out many years later, and they weren't nearly as good. But the original ones were a godsend back in the day. Luke, I mean, that sounds amazing. That sounds awesome. I am familiar with the Age of Ashes. But like, then it's like, okay, well, then you put your characters onto a 160-foot map and you give them a 30-foot range spell, and they go, but I have reach. I took reach spell. And you're like, cool. It doesn't even make it a quarter of the way across the battlefield. I don't know. It just feels like the abilities should scale with the characters. All the math does, your proficiencies. My cleric has never worn, because he took light armor proficiency, my cleric had never worn robes the entire campaign. But yet when he got to level 11 or whatever, he picked up defensive robes, and he picked up expert armor proficiency in unarmored, just automatically. So it's like everything else scales. Why doesn't some of this other stuff scale as well? Okay, Incendiary Fog. Oh, look away. Spoiler for Quest for the Frozen Flame. It's rare. But 3 actions, 120 foot, 20-foot burst. You summon a cloud of flammable black dust. It functions as obscuring mist, so concealed. If any open flame or fire effect is cast within this area or when later... Isn't this the same damn spell? Jesus. Didn't we already have this spell? Wasn't this spell called Flammable Fumes? Like, just cast Fireball. This spell doesn't scale at all. It's flammable fumes, but you can see it. To be clear, I mean, a spell like this doesn't really need to scale because it's level 5 and Quest for the Frozen Flame ends at level 10. So they were really phoning this one in, They're like sitting there going like, hey, yeah, I see you wrote this spell for the file for the 3rd adventure in the Burning Tundra in the Quest for the Frozen Flame adventure path. I noticed it doesn't scale. The adventure ends. Who cares? Yeah, dude, you're right. Print it. All right. Next up is Invoke Spirits. Okay. Motion, fear, mental, necromancy. Not evil, but you do summon ragged apparitions of the dead to stalk the living. And I really mean this. If a cleric in your party, of say Desna or Saren Ray or Iomede, cast this spell, how would you feel about that? But it is reasonable range, good area. It's a will save, so that's interesting. It's an area will save. The damage is very negligible. And they only become frightened 2 and fleeing if they critically fail. And you can move, when you sustain it, you can move it completely, which is nice. And it's the same effect, except critically flailing doesn't make them flee, just frightened 2. This spell, Flame Loud, has got it completely right. It's a D. It's just, the effects are too, like, if it was frightened 1 on a failure, I think we could talk. But the spell, the damage isn't good enough. The frightened effect only comes in on a critically failure. The heighten is very, very bad. So this spell gets a D. The heighten is such a mockery. It should be an F. All right. I'll buy from you. Sorry, Flame Loud. William Brandis says the heighten is such a mockery. It deserves an F, or it deserves an F. You got to admit that is one of the worst heightens we've ever seen. 2d4 at plus 2d4 at +2. You gotta love it. But +2, 1d4. Yeah, he's right. That's right. It's okay, Flame Loud. Neither of us really did, but thankfully William Brandis was here to show us how bad this spell was. Okay. Where are we at? Mantle of Frozen Heart. This is a series of spells. It's got the morph and transmute. It's got the morph trait. So 2 actions, 1 minute. So it's a combat buff, single target, personal target only. And you get a mantle of ice magic as your skin and body and armor morph into sort of an icy freeze. We get some nice flavor text here, right in the middle of the very valuable spell detection. Freezing air emanates from your body, sending a chill down anyone's spine who draws close, and leaving a fine dusting of frost in your wake. It's a good thing that we have this right in the middle of the spell. Again, just do it like magic. Put it at the bottom or the top consistently. Put it in italics. Put it in a separate area. Put it in a separate font. Upon casting the spell, you get 2 options. As a single action, which has the concentrate trait, you can change one of your chosen abilities to a different option from the list. Okay. So you get 2 of these options. You get 2 of 4. And as a single action, you can change one to one of the ones that you didn't do. So you can modify it a little bit. You can gain resistance to 10 to cold. You can gain a Heart of Ice, which gives you any creature that touches you or hits you with a melee unarmed attack or a non-reach melee weapon attack. Takes 2d6 cold damage, automatic. You can Ice Glide, allowing you to skate. You don't need to balance on ice. You ignore difficult terrain from ice and snow. And while moving along a smooth surface, you get a plus 20-foot bonus to your speed. And lastly, Icy Claws, which lets you make attacks. You get a climb speed equal to your lamb speed. And you gain a claw attack with agile and finesse in the brawling group, dealing d6 base plus 2d6 additional cold damage. All in all, this all adds up to a spell that I feel like doesn't quite get there. I like that you get to pick 2. There's a lot of modularity about this spell. I would normally rank this spell a D, but the individual effects are not really that powerful. But you get to choose 2, and there's a lot of versatility here, and I think this is a fine C-level spell. In the world of Pathfinder 2, if spells like this were like the worst spells that we had, I think we would all agree that we would be, we would be fine with that. So now we get the opposite, which I'm sure is exactly the opposite. This is the Mantle of the Magma Heart. And it's the same thing, except you can erupt in lava and you become large, which of course gives you Clumsy 1. You get increased of reach, and you get plus, so basically you get to cast Enlarge on yourself. You get a fist attack that does d8 bludgeoning plus 2d6 fire plus 1d6 persistent fire. You get the Heart of Fire. Again, anybody touching you or dealing damage to you and with a melee does 2d6. And lastly, you gain resistance 5 to cold and fire, which is a little weird that it's different than the other one. Yeah, I mean, this spell probably scales the exact same way. I was kind of expecting it literally to be the exact opposite of it, but I mean, using a level 5 spell to gain, no, I mean, Flame Loud, but using a level 5 spell slot to cast Enlarge Person on yourself and gain resistance 5 to cold and fire is pretty sad. Right? Like, let's not get I think this spell, I will say this. I think the Magma Heart is better than the Frozen Heart, but we're talking very marginal difference here. All right. Mariner's Curse is next. It's a curse. It's necromancy. Hey, Rivo.
Revo Grim tip $10. Late to the party, but I brought beer.
It's very nice, Rivo. We are crushing it. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming in. As a reminder, again, for posterity's sake, if you're watching this at a later time, I'm sorry that I'm pretty low energy today. I had a dental procedure, and yeah, we're doing it. Mariner's Curse. 2 actions and it targets a creature. This one does not have the attack trait. You give them the Curse of the Waves. I mean, this plays. I mean, if they fail, they become sicken 1. And they still have to make saves in order to reduce sicken, which is great. If they succeed. If they fail, however, they become sicken 1 and cannot reduce the sicken condition. And if they are sickened and on the water and at least a mile from shore, they are slowed 1. And if they crit fail, they are sickened 2. So this spell is one of the better curses that we've seen, actually. Sicken is a good condition. Yes, they can get rid of it with remove curse, but you know, that's not something that everybody's going to have prepared every day. It involves a counteract check. So from just as a combat debuff, this actually plays pretty hard, actually, pretty well. And if you're in the right environment, say in the water, sicken 1, slowed 1, that you cannot get rid of, is brutal. And because all these curses last for a long time, Damien, BA if your campaign is shackles. Wait, so you can't drink while sickened, so Mariner's Curse just kills you eventually if you get remove curse? That is correct, AK. You can't eat either. Yeah, a curse that the players can actually use. So I really like Mariner's Curse. I think this is a solid... This is like a solid B, and I'm going to give it a GMA. I think this is a very flavorful curse to put on your players in a sea campaign, like a sea hag or sea witch. Cast them with this, especially if it's not something they can immediately deal with. The idea that they're going to starve to death or die of thirst because they're constantly affected by the rolling waves of the Mariner's Curse. I think it's pretty powerful. I think it's pretty effective. I think this is actually pretty fun. You can drink or eat carefully or slowly. I didn't think you could. You cannot willingly ingest anything. So, you are locked out of heaven. Well, I mean, Damien, how often are people really actually going to be cast this? Lollipop, that is somewhat true. You probably could be force-fed. That's true. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to force-feed anybody. We just, you know what we do? We just vomit into each other's mouths. That's a very Pathfinder. I'm surprised there's not a Pathfinder 2 spell that doesn't already do that. I can think of it now. It would have auditory, mental, enchantment, incapacitation, curse, and it just makes everybody start vomiting into each other's mouths. And it'll be called like 2 girls, 1 goblet. That's probably a Pathfinder 2 spell. Yeah, baby bird him. You trying to baby bird me the cookie? I gave you cookie, I gave you cookie. You gave me cookie, I gave you cookie. Sorry. 2 elves, 1 cup. Right there. Oh, olfactory. AK. Look, say we could do this. We can do this all day. You don't know it, but Jason B, he's in the chat. So anyways, where were we? Mind probe. Uncommon, divination, linguistic, mental, and uncommon again just because this spell would actually let players like gain information. And Pathfinder 2 doesn't like for you necessarily to be able to automatically gain information. They want your GMs to feel like they have the permission to say no. It's 1 minute to cast one creature 30 feet, and you sustain it. And you basically get to sift their mind for information. So there was an earlier spell that we saw that was similar to this that basically gave you like what their kind of general thoughts and emotions were. Like it didn't let you do anything. It was really horrible. So this spell probably is the better version of that. I remember we gave that spell an F or a D. I don't remember exactly the name of the spell. For each round of the spell's duration, you can sustain to ask a different question. The target can attempt a deception check against your spell DC. If it succeeds, they don't have to answer. You don't learn the answer. And on a critical success, of course, they get to lie to you, even though you're probing their mind. Mental deception, folks. So you basically get to force them to answer your questions. This spell at least does what it's supposed to do. Granted, they have to fail the will save, number 1, and then you have to keep sustaining it, and then they get to keep making deception checks against your will DC. So there's many opportunities for this spell to not work for you. And of course, you'll never know if they critically succeeded and are lying to you, even though you're probing their mind. So even in this game, even when you are extracting the information from their fucking mind, there is still a way for them just to lie to you. God damn it. I wanted to like this spell. I really did. But again, because we're playing Pathfinder 2, if you went to them and said, where is the prince being held captive? And he's like, I'll never tell you. And then like the wizard comes up and he goes, there's no need for words. And then the wizard begins moving his hand against the bound man, and he casts a mind probe on them, and he casts his thoughts into their mind. And they begin sifting through their mind, and then he searches for an answer to the question, where is the prince held? And then I'm like, okay, well, he's going to make a secret deception check against your DC. And on a critical success of that deception check, the target gives you a false answer that I believe is truthful. So then he goes, by the way, Ben Hanley says, describing the Dread movie. That is a great freaking movie. And I forget her character's name, but she is a great freaking character. And that's exactly, Ben, that's exactly what I was thinking of when I was doing that. So anyways, so I critically succeed, and it's secret, and I go, and the wizard kind of shakes his head, and he goes, the wizard is being held in the dungeon of the grim necromancer. And the party's like, well, then we have our answer. We fly or ride tonight. And then, like, meanwhile, it's like, no, none of that was true. You took it from his mind. That's right. F. You know how you fix this spell? You make it so that if they critically succeed, they block that information out and you can't get access to it anymore. If they succeed, they are able to keep some of the details back from you, but they're still able to, you're able to gain some information. And on a failure, you get the information that you need. Mirrors malefectors. Mirror malefector. It's an illusion, mental and visual. How can something be mental and visual? Okay. 30 feet, 2 actions, basic will save, sustained for up to 1 minute. You completely surround a creature with mirrors that follow it even as it moves. The mirrors reflect the target, although if the target has no reflection, like a vampire, it is unaffected by mirror malefector. As long as the target is surrounded by mirrors, it's frightened 1. Okay. Sure. I mean, that's pretty good. When you cast the spell, though, the reflections leap from the mirror and also attack. Like, what is this spell representing? What is this spell doing? Why is this a thing? What part of our shared mentality is this spell thing. I'm going to surround them with a ring of illusory mirrors that makes it afraid, and also reflections leap out from the mirrors, and they attack you, and they do mental damage. What is this spell? This spell feels like this is the Mad Libs of spell design. This is a Mad Libs. This is like if somebody took the Tome of Adventure Design, but it was like the Tome of Spell Design. This is like if Ben, God bless you, from our Discord, who loves to use random tables to generate spells, generated a spell. It's a spell. It's mirrors, and they're scary, and illusions attack you. What? And like, it's a Naruto spell. Okay. All right. Well, so what you're telling me is someone at Paizo, like Naruto, and was like, I'm going to put this spell. Well, okay. Well, if you're telling me it's from an anime, I'm putting it to F. I don't care if the spell is good or not. Doesn't make any sense. And all right, moving on. Uh-oh, Flame Loud's upset. That's some flat out bias. Flame Loud, the whole thing is bias. All right, let's see if the spell's any good. All right, you surround a creature with mirrors. It's frightened 1, and it deals 78 damage mental. So it's frightened 1 automatically, right? And you have to sustain it. I hate that the spell is pretty good. That's what the worst part is. You do 78 on the initial, which is reasonable damage. If the target succeeds at any will save it attempts against the mirrors, the illusionary spells shatter and the spell ends. Okay. So they do get a save basically right away. So if they make the will save, by the way, they take a couple points of mental damage and the spell is over. I still don't think this spell is that great. I'll give it a C. All right, Pass Wall, which if you're a fan of our Discord, you know that we talked a lot about this spell recently. So Pass Wall is a spell. It goes back to the old days of D&D, where now, of course, it's Pathfinder 2, so it's got a little bit more information about it. But you basically create it's like a magical tunnel through a wall. This one only goes for 10 feet, but if you go to 7th level, it's 20 feet. And it doesn't, reduce the structural integrity of the spell, but basically it's like, oh, there's a town wall, pass wall. We walk through the town wall. We need to get inside the tower, pass wall. This is a classic exploration spell. It's very, very, very. This is classic Dungeons and Dragons role-playing games where magic lets you do this zany, crazy stuff. These kind of heists, these kind of shenanigans, which was the title of our last podcast. And it's pretty good. I don't think you would take this spell. I think it's a scroll spell. But I think that when you want this spell, this spell does exactly what it needs to do, that no other spell could really copy it. And I love it at A as a scroll. At very higher level, you might just have one of these in your slots, but I think having, a couple scrolls of this in your bag, if you're going in for like an Ocean's 11 style heist, yeah, you might prep a couple of these. I find it unlikely that a sorcerer would probably have one of these in their repertoire, but scroll, not wand. Yeah, because again, a wand, in order for a wand to be useful, you have to, I think it costs like 7 or 8 times as many scrolls. Are you really going to need to cast that 7 or 8 times? I think you're more likely to want to be able to cast that multiple times in one day in the course of a campaign. then you would be able to cast it every day. And what do we need for an S tier scroll? I don't know. We've had an S tier wand. I don't think we've had an S tier scroll. Did we have an S tier scroll? Anybody know? I don't think we have. I don't think we have. Yeah. I was trying to see if I had any of my old ones up there. All right. Pillars of Sand. Spoiler from Extinction Curse. Yeah, Flame Loud. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of a wizard taking this. I just think that, like, the uses for this spell are typically going to be one that either you very specific... Again, that is supposed to be why prepared spellcasters are, in theory, more powerful than spontaneous spellcasters, which is why spontaneous spellcasters get more slots or spells per day, because the prepared spellcasters are supposed to be able to be like, hey, we're going on an Ocean's 11 style heist today, and we got to break in and do all sorts of magical shenanigans. I'm going to take 3 or 4 pass walls from my higher, from my level 5 or 6 slots, which you, the sorcerer, you can't just do that. You didn't take pass wall because, is that spell that you're really going to want to cast all the time? Probably not. So you don't have it. So that's why I think that a wizard can be a very powerful class, as long as you have a GM and a campaign and an adventure that lets you take advantage of that prepared. So Pillars of Sand is up next. It's 120 feet. It's 3 actions and it sustains for a minute. You raise 1 or more pillars of sand from the earth. This is from Extinction Curse. The total height of the pillars is 30 feet, which must be used in 10-foot increments. Boy, because we wouldn't want to have 3 30-foot tall pillars. No, you have to have 1 10-foot pillar, 1 20-foot, and 1 10-foot, or 1 30-foot. Wow. Each pillar is 5 by 5 in length and width. So they're apparently made of squares.
GM Scott tipped $25.
Hey!
Gotta skate. I'll catch the rest of the VOD later. Don't run out of Tylenol.
GM Scott, thank you very, very much. Appreciate that big tip, buddy. We will we'll be talking to you soon on the Discord. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the show, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks, GM Scott, for that tip. We're closing in on the goal, though, so that's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. We're pretty close, and we only have hopefully a couple more spells, so we'll try to go through this pretty quickly. Maybe we can actually get these wrapped up, even though, we'll fight through the pain. So you create some pillars, and they're DC 15 to climb, static, which at this level probably doesn't matter too much. They can attempt a reflex save to either grab the edge to move into it. So you just create some pillars that are 5 feet by 5 feet. Boy, I don't know. Scroll D. I guess the idea here is that you can sustain it and destroy a pillar, and an enemy on top of it collapses. It just seems like a lot of work to do some damage. So the idea is, the best case scenario, right? You spend 3 actions. You make 3 10-foot tall pillars underneath 3 enemies. They get raised up. They fail their reflex save, so they're stuck on the pillar. They don't climb down or otherwise get down from the pillar. And then on your next turn, use a sustain action to destroy the pillars. And they fall 10 feet, take 5 damage each, and are prone. Yeah, it doesn't seem great. Yeah. Which, by the way, is like a level, or even just levitate Flame Loud, which is 3 levels lower. Prying Eye. Used to be a cool spell. Maybe it still is. Prying Eye. Divination Scrying. It casts 1 minute. The range is see text, and the duration is sustained. So you can keep this thing going for a while. Probably 5-10 minutes. You create an invisible eye, 1 inch in diameter, that you can see at a location within 500 feet from you. It sustains. It sees in all directions and constantly transmits that data to you. Every time you sustain it, you can move the eye up to 30 feet, and when you do so, you only see things in front of the eye, or you can move it slowly at 10 feet, and it sees everything all around it. There is no limit to how far the eye moves, but the spell ends immediately if you or the eye ever cease to be on the same plane of existence. You can attempt seek actions through the eye. So this is a really cool divination spell, very similar to the way it used to work in PF1. It's like the Eye of Kilrog, if you've ever played Warcraft 2. It's invisible. It's a great way to just scout out an entire area. I love this spell. I think this spell is just an A-tier, solid divination spell. There's no wonky checks. There's no bullshit it's an invisible flying eye that you can cast within 500 feet from you and then just moves. Solid. It's just very solid. Flame and I are on the same page. A, no discussion, just A. Very good. I agree. All right. That's a nice one to see. Okay, we got maybe about 10 or 12 left. Maybe we'll try to knock these out. What do you guys say? We're pretty close to the goal, so that kind of gives me a little bit of strength here to move on. We'll try to get this done. We'll get Return Beacon locked up. This is from Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, so watch your spoilers here. It's an uncommon teleportation effect. 1 minute to cast, range 30 feet, and it lasts an hour. You create a unique planar beacon within the spell's range, which is only 30 feet, which remains in place for an hour. It's invisible except by detect magic. And at any time during the duration of the beacon, you can complete a 1 minute. By the way, this spell is 100% should be a ritual. I think we can all agree with this. At any point during the duration of the beacon, you can complete a 1 minute activity, which has the concentrate and manipulate traits to focus on the beacon and transport yourself into any items you're wearing and holding from your current space to the location of the beacon. Transporting yourself in this way ends the spell. So you can transport yourself and any items that you are carrying. If this spell would bring another creature with you, even if you're carrying it in an extra dimensional container, because the spell knows. Yeah, Flame Loud. It's invisible. Yep, that's true. Only detect magic. It says the beacon is invisible. That's kind of wonky the way that is rude. Specific beats general, right? But these are two specifics. But I don't know. That's a great question, actually. Flame Loud. It probably doesn't matter. So you cast a beacon. It lasts for an hour, and then at any time during that hour, you can spend another minute to teleport yourself back to where you placed the beacon. And if you cast another beacon, it ends, and you have to be within 1 mile of the beacon or it fails. If you heighten it to 7, it lasts 8 hours, and you can go 100 miles. So it's kind of like a 1 minute cooldown. Why wouldn't you just Dimension Door? AK, exactly. Another cool spell with an interesting setup, brought down by unnecessary cast time and restrictions. Just Dimension Door heightened to the same freaking level as the spell. I mean, it's cool. It does what it says, but it's just not functional enough. D. All right. Rewinding Step is our next one. All right. You know, I wish I had permissions to play other types. I'm going to change this up here real quick for the last part of our thing. So I do have a question for everybody. Here in the chat while I'm looking up some new music. What next week we're going to be at Origins. We're going to hopefully be meeting up with some of our patrons. and we're hopefully going to be doing a podcast or two with myself, the knights that are coming. But I think it'd be cool to do some of the things with the patrons as well. So I'm curious, what do you all think? What do you all? We're gonna have the whole Patreon. Not the whole Patreon, but we're gonna have this whole extra component of having a bunch of patrons there. What do you think we should talk about? What do you, as a group, not just the knights, but the knights plus some patrons? What do you think we should talk about? Like, what are some ideas? I'd love to know what you all think so far. I'm gonna ask the Discord too, but we're here, so let's talk about it. I am gonna go with focus and study beats. Okay. That is good. All right. Moving on. We've got ourselves rewinding step. So you missed the question. The question is, what kind of, we're going to have a special podcast next week because we're going to be together with members of our Patreon. And I didn't know if there was anything that the people here think would be interesting for a large group discussion to talk about. Some, think of it as like a mega podcast episode, right? Just something to think about. All right, we got rewinding step. It's 1 minute cast that lasts for 10 minutes. Again, you anchor your location in time so you can swiftly retrace your steps later with complex chronomancy. The space where you're in when you cast a spell becomes your temporal anchor space. While you're within 500 feet of that temporal anchor space, you can spend a single action with the concentrate trait to instantaneously return to that space. The spell then ends. Isn't this just better than the spell that we just read? Huh? Well, this spell actually works. You precast it, and it sets a beacon. A rewinding temporal space. By the way, it says it anchors your location in time. And really, it's anchoring your location in space. And then it has a 500-foot range. I guess the other one has a mile range. I feel like we've just read two poor man's dimension doors. Yeah. Wow. All these are just like... But here's the problem with this spell. It's a dimension door that only goes to one spot. The advantage, I guess, is that it's only a single action, as a dimension door is two. But why would I be casting this spell when I could just cast Dimension Door? Anthony, exactly. It would be way cooler if you went back 10 minutes in time when you cast it. This feels like it should be a contingency spell case with a stack. I feel like this spell is almost exactly... This spell is better than Return Beacon, but neither of these spells is as good as just casting Dimension Door. So it's like, why are we casting either of these spells when we can just cast Dimension Door heightened to 5th level? And then we could go wherever the hell we want. I don't get it. It seems like a lot of extra work for what amounts to a very short range teleport.
Jason B tipped $10. Can we have a new tip goal? Hire us some editors and a product design lead. THX.
I'm sorry. I think I missed that. Can we have a new tip goal? Hire us some editors. Oh, and a new product design lead. Sure. Sorry, Jason. This is what you get. All right. Moving on. Sean, that is a good point, Sean. And that is something to be keep in mind when we talk about this for the divine list. But as the arcane list goes, yeah, come on. AK. I guess that's true. I How many times are you really actually doing that, though? Dimension dooring out and then dimension dooring back and then dimension out. Seems like a lot of stuff here. All right. Secret chests. Another spell that should absolutely be a ritual. And this spell, by the way, is old. This spell has been in D&D forever. It used to be called Leomund's Secret Chest. And it probably still is in 5th edition. But we can't use that in Pathfinder. But for 1 minute, you touch a container and its contents totaling 10 bulk or less. That's a good amount. And it lasts until the next time you make your daily preparations, which means, in theory, it can last forever as long as you keep the slot locked out. And you banish a contents and its container to an ethereal plane where you could retrieve it. The physical properties are irrelevant, but it can't not contain creatures. Time passes normally for the container and its contents, though very unlikely. It is possible for a creature on the ethereal plane to stumble upon the chest. You can dismiss the spell to return it to your current location. So it's a cool portable closet. I think this spell is okay. But why is this a spell? I don't get it. And it's 5th level. You know? We need some way to balance between effects that are high level. Like, you wouldn't want a low level character casting this spell. But I also don't want like a level 9 or a level 11 wizard using their very highest level spell slots just to cast this spell. Does that make sense? The very nature of this spell precludes it being a scroll or a wand. I guess maybe a wand, because you cast it every day so that you can put stuff into the chest and then I don't know how to rate this. It's not really a wand spell. I don't want to give this spell a D because it's not on the same tier as these, but I don't know where to put it. I'm a little torn up on this one. So I'd love to know the group's thoughts here. Oh, I can't type. C for secret. I like it. That's wild, by the way, Lance, that we aren't playing tomorrow. I mean, good on you for being a dutiful son, but I agree, AK. That would be really funny. Well, you know, there's a chance. It says so in the spell description. All right, I'll let you guys vote, and I'll get on to the next one here. Almost done. All right. Everybody says C. We'll go C. I agree. C minus. C minus, but it's very questionable how good this spell actually is. All right. Shadow Siphon is next. Oh, God. Oh, okay. Whew, I was worried it was going to be a shadow spell. All right, it's a reaction, which, oh, did I miss a spell? Oh, I did miss a spell. Damn, sending. Okay, sends a mental image, 3 actions planetary, and to a creature. You can send them a mental message with 25 words or longer, and then they can respond with their own message of 25 words or fewer. I mean, this spell does what it says it's going to do. I don't think you would ever need probably a scroll of this. Scroll B, I think. The spell, you know, if you need to be able to be like, oh, we need to tell the Duke the army is coming. I know the Duke. Let me pull up my scroll sending. Duke, be warned. The army of the Black Forest has broken through our lines. They're on their way. Prepare yourself. And then the Duke goes, all right, that's awesome. We will meet them at the gate in 1 week. Can you hold them until then? You know. Scroll of SMS. Exactly. Now, here's the thing, Total Entropy. This spell, in many ways, is just like Secret Chest, where I'm okay with lower level wizards not being able to have access to this spell. I like that you need to be a higher level wizard in order to gain access to this level of magical power, but I don't like the resource cost that it costs you in order to be able to do it when you are a 9th or an 11th or even maybe even a 13th level wizard. It's just too high. First, well, we've had S tier wands, AK. Longstrider was an S tier wand. I can't tell you how often the spells come in handy. Instant communication is valuable if you go for realism. I mean, that is true. But the problem with the wand is you're only casting it once per day. So the problem with like wands are, in our mind, the wand tier is for spells that are great because you want to cast them once every day, every single day, and you're only really going to cast them once. Like Longstrider lasts 8 hours. Boom, cast it, you're done with it, set it and forget it. Kind of set it and forget it. Sending isn't really a set it, forget it. Ryan, that's not a conversation for today. We'll probably do because when we go to level 6, we met our tip goal last time. So for when we do our level 6 spells, we're going to bring some patrons on as guests on to help with this discussion. So if you're watching and you're a member of the Patreon, and we'll probably see if any of our heroes or champions want to join us, but we'll probably grab a couple people and have them on, and we can have some lively debates because there's a lot fewer spells at the higher levels, so we can take a little bit more time with them. So but we'll kind of reset our expectations. We might even have some debate. I'd love to get some people in there who don't necessarily agree with my biases and my qualifications about what makes a spell good or not. So but yeah, generally speaking. Sorry, Damien. I know. Okay, Shadow Siphon. That's where we were at. So level 5 spell. It's an illusion shadow. It's a reaction, which I appreciate. Yeah, William Brandis, that's kind of exactly what I was thinking of. Or just, if you want to tie it to some sort of mechanics, you could just require master level in Arcane, which automatically at least makes it a level 7, and legendary would make it level 15. Again, if I had my druthers, right, there would be a mythic tier, and then you could have something like expert at 3, master at 7, legendary at 13, and then like mythic at like 17 or something, and then you could have skill feats or abilities or somehow tie in and kind of curtail to that. But I think you're on the right. You and I are obviously on the same page there. But basically, somehow, some sort of way where there's like a cap. Once you break through it, it gives you access, even if the cost is low. But if the cost was low and the access was low, then it would probably be broken, or it wouldn't feel correct. I mean, fundamentally, I don't think there's anything wrong with a low-level wizard having the ability to send. Maybe it's just always something they can do, but, it starts off with just within town, and then it's within the country, and then it's within, I don't know. Anyways. So this is a reaction, and a spell or magical effect deals damage. You transform it into an illusory version of its spell, so you attempt to counteract the spell. If it's successful, anybody who had taken damage takes half as much damage. Treat Shadow Siphon's counteract level as 2 higher for this attempt. That's good. Wow. We've talked about this all over the time. We talked about this with all the remove spells. We've talked about this time and time again, and here it is. They are doing it, and this is in the core rulebook. Pathfinder 2 has no internal consistency. There are so many spells that just have these random abilities thrown in here, and this text should 100% be on every remove spell. It should be on remove disease. It should be on remove curse. Like, what the hell? By the way, you only if a fireball hits you, if you counteract it, it affects everybody that would be affected by the fireball, not just one person. It targets basically the spell, right? See here, yeah, targets the triggering spell. Wow, this is good. I mean, that could potentially be saving the party half damage. This is really good. This last part here makes this incredibly good. This means that your Shadow Siphon is counterspelling as if it was a level 7 spell, which means even if you fail the counteract checked, you will dispel, you will have your effect if the spell is level 6 or lower. It means if you succeed at the counteract check, you could have your Shadow Siphon effect against a spell of level 7 or 8. This spell is really, really good. I like this spell. I'm giving it an S. That's exactly right, Total Entropy. As long as you don't critically fail, it works. And you don't even need to have the spell prepared. This is huge. By the way, look at this. Trigger, it's better than Counterspell. The trigger is a spell or... No, it's kind of wonky here. We'll have to see here. Because the trigger says a spell or magical effect deals damage. And then it says in the text, you transform the triggering spell. You attempt to counteract the target spell. But as written, there's this concept here of a magical effect. I don't know, maybe they just messed that up here. Because I was thinking, like, maybe you could use this against a breath weapon. Because if I just read this trigger, I would think that you could use it against a breath weapon. But the rest of the spell seems to suggest you could only use it against a spell. But either way, if a higher level wizard cast a cone of cold on my party, and that cone of cold dealt something like 45 or 50 points of cold damage to 4 or 5 PCs. So you're talking about 250 points of damage. And my wizard can cast this spell, fail the counteract check. By the way, this is a reaction from my wizard, so it's not even using up my actions. I can use a reaction from my wizard, fail the counteract check, and still cut that 250 damage that cone of cold just dealt to 125 points of damage. I think this spell is very, very good. Yeah, I like this spell. It's very good. I think it's good. I like it. I'm not exactly sure if they intended it to be able to use against... In Pathfinder 1, we would talk about the difference between a spell versus a spell-like ability. And maybe there was some, wonkiness in there. I love this spell. I think this spell is very powerful. What, is it a cult in Arcane? Yep, cult in Arcane. I like this spell a lot. AK, because Pathfinder 2 loves rolling dice. Especially when it doesn't matter. That's why. That's why. Okay, Shadow Walk is our next spell. And as we enter this home stretch here, I want to say thanks everybody for staying on with me. I know I've been a little bit subdued today, so I appreciate that. But I am happy to get this live stream out here before next week, where we're going to be at Origins. And I do, again, encourage you to, keep track. We're going to hopefully be posting stuff on social media, hopefully getting some stuff published even while we're down there at Origins. So, keep up with the nights. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to get a chance to play some games, and I think it'll make some good content for everybody. So at least I'm hoping it is. Shadow Walk is uncommon because this would let you, travel and do cool stuff. Conjuration, Shadow Teleportation. I got to be honest with you. I've always loved this spell. I've loved the idea ever since reading, Wheel of Time and the idea of traveling in this sort of nearby dimension that has risk associated with it. The Ways is obviously the closest, if you're familiar with Wheel of Time, this is very much like the Ways. You're going into the shadow plane, and you can travel very quickly. The problem, I've always had this issue with D&D, you get this spell at level 5 and literally 2 PC levels, which sometimes might take a week or 2 weeks in the game. Your PCs are level 11 and now they have access to teleport and plane shift. There's never a period of time in which this spell is cool. In my personal opinion, Shadow Walk should be like a level 3 spell, right? It should be an option for low-level characters to be able to teleport. It's not instantaneous, but it's faster. it avoids the terrain, but it's in this scary shadow realm, right? Like this should be the way that low level characters teleport, you know? Yes, or the Warhammer Warp. I mean, Warhammer Warp is a couple levels notches up of insanity, but you know, this lasts for 8 hours. You and up to 9 players, and you access the shadow plane and used its warp nature to speed your travels. The targets enter the edge of the shadow plane. You cannot see, although there's a hazy reflection. For every 3 minutes along the border, you can move as far as you would in 1 hour. So you're talking about a 20x speed increase, which is incredible. Obviously, given the nature of your ability to dismiss it at will, and then, you know, you kind of enter and exit, you know, obviously I prefer it to be something cooler, like there have to be gateways and things like that. But I mean, there's ways you could mess around with this. But my point is, I don't like that this spell is, again, accessed so high up when you're so close to or near to getting access to just much better and, quite frankly, much boring spells. I still like this spell. The fact that it targets multiple creatures, it's actually pretty substantial movement speed. And hell, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, they got rid of random encounters. So there's enough for, you know, it says, while in the shadow plane, the targets are exposed to potential encounters with that plane's denizens. But there are no random encounters anymore in Pathfinder 2. So unless your GM prepared some shadow encounters, technically you're not going to encounter anything. I like this spell. I think this spell is very, very cool. I think it's very flavorful. I think it's very fun. And I mean, for overland travel and the entire party, I think this gets it done. I'm not going to say S, but I am going to say that it is a solid A tier spell. It's very cool, very evocative, very fun. And you know, for me personally, it's like an A++, maybe S tier, just because of how cool it is and how fun it is. But I would love it personally for it to be lower level and that be an option. You know, well, it'll take us, you know, we need to get there, but we need to get there in 3 weeks. And it's like, we could take the shadow way, you know, or we could access the shadow realm. And it's like, do you know that spell? Yes, I have it in my book. And it's also something that like a wizard would have, but like a sorcerer never would. And so it makes those two classes feel different. You know, my master taught it to me. It's in my book. And, you know, yes, tomorrow morning I will read from the tome and we will access the plane of shadow. It's like, that's cool. That's very cool. Yes, right. Exactly. If Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder 2 had other resource mechanics, which we talked about a little bit this Tuesday, where we talked about resource tracks. If Pathfinder 2 had those, this would be a great way to, hey, we can travel through the shadow realm, and instead of it just like giving us a ton of conditions and hit point damage that'll make it impossible for us to adventure, it can affect our characters in other real mechanical ways that have actual consequences, but they don't impact our ability to actually play the game. All right. Our next one is Subconscious Suggestion. Incapacitation, enchantment, mental. So there's a lot of things in the game that are going to be immune to this spell. 2 actions, 30 feet. So short range, bad traits, 1 creature. You implant but the duration varies. You implant a subconscious suggestion deep within the character or the target's mind to follow when a trigger occurs. You suggest a course of action. So this is a delayed suggestion. In fact, the wording of this spell is almost exactly the same as suggestion. So you suggest a course of action to the target, and the target must be phrased in such a way as to seem like a logical course of action, and it cannot be obviously self-destructive or against their self-interest, and they make a will save. If they succeed, they are not only not affected, they know that you tried to implant a subconscious suggestion into their mind. If they succeed at the will save, they are unaffected, but they are not even aware that you tried to mess with them. And if they fail, it remains in their target subconscious until the next time you prepare spells. Lance Quagmire says, delayed blast suggestion. Yes, except for the blast part. If the trigger occurs before then the target follows your suggestion. The effect has a duration of 1 minute or until the target has completed the finite suggestion. And if they critically fail, it is hour. There you go, Glance Quagmire. At 9th level, we've got delayed blast suggestion because you can target up to 10 creatures. So obviously this spell is, you know, classic for the sleeper agent concept, right? You cast a spell on a waiter, and you say, when the governor appears, stab him, and I will reward you wealthfully, and they're just sitting around unaware that they even have this suggestion subconsciously planted into their mind. And then the governor appears, and they pull out their dagger and they try to kill him. So this is like the classic, the classic sleeper agent, kind of spell. It's very flavorful. It's very cool. I don't know that the PCs would be using this spell a lot. Feels like more of a GM spell to me. And not that the GM would even really be using this on the PCs. More like the GM would have an NPC who had this cast on them. Kidnapping a bandit, then setting them to set. But how is that logical? That's the problem, Flame Loud, It's got to seem like a logical suggestion. Yeah, I mean the PCs probably could use this in a lot of different flavorful ways. It's a little wonky, I suppose. All right, I'll just give it a regular C. I won't give it a GM tier. You're right. My players would probably use this in creative ways too, so I will agree to that, Flame Loud. All right. That would be so dramatic. That would be so dramatic, William Brandis, if the GM casted a player and the player failed to save, and then the king got killed by the player, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, the PC did it!" And then they have to go on the run, and then to clear their good name, and then after they clear their good name, everyone's like, "Oh, you guys are great!" And then they become the kings. Oh, it's gonna be so cool! And then I'm gonna write it as a novel, and I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna be a #1 New York Times bestseller list, like R.A. Salvatore. All right, that's every GM out there. Now that's next level, William Brandis. That's next level. I know I'm going to forget this later. Let me cast it on myself. And then I won't even have to really do it because the suggestion will make me do it and it'll make me feel like it's a good idea. And then when the suggestion's over, I'll realize I took out the trash and I'll be upset that I took it out. But then I'll be like, but wait, it's already done. This is great. So that's probably the best use of the spell yet. All right. Summon Dragon. All of our summon spells have been level C. I don't know that this is going to be any different. You conjure, this works like summon animal, except you summon a common creature that has the dragon trait and whose level is 5 or lower. So you are level 9. Okay, because you're casting a level 5 spell. You're level 9, and you are casting, you are bringing in a monster that is party level -4. Think about a combat encounter, Pathfinder 2, and imagine what an opponent of party level -4 would look or feel like, and you get some suggestion of how ineffectual this would be. This might be one of the worst ones yet, honestly. No, I'm sorry. Party level -5. Party level -5. So, wait a second. Oh no. Okay, it's part. Okay, I'm sorry. It's level 5 or lower. Okay, never mind. It is 4 lower. It's 4 or lower. Okay, not -5. Level 5, which is 4 or lower. Yeah. The way. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Level 7 or lower. Level 8 or. But it's still 4 levels below you. So when you are a level 9 character, you could summon a Flame Drake. So, think about level 9. Your character probably has, let's say a monster, probably has something like, let's see, PF2, GM, creature, build. So you're level 9, you're fighting like a level 10 monster, or maybe a level 11 monster, and you want to summon this creature. So we got a level 11 monster. It's got like a 30 or a 31 AC. So you pull out this Flame Drake, and he's got a +14 to hit. So he needs a 17 to hit. Yeah. I mean, I get that dragons are cool because they have all these special abilities and they can fly and they can, but they still have the minion rule, right? So they can't even do all that cool stuff. So let's see what the chat is saying here. If you get a chance to talk to Mark again, ask him about the summon spells. You know what, Flame Loud? I will do that. I will do that. That is a great one to ask. Flame Drake doesn't do jack shit at level 9. It's a real shame. Do dragons have higher than normal stats? No, Lance. I mean, they're all basically on the same table. At the base level, the only thing you get is a Flame Drake. It's literally the only thing that you can summon off this spell, which is really unfortunate. I mean, yeah. This is a B spell for the... Oh, yeah, sure. That's a great point, William. That's a great spell for proficiency without level. We need a new column. The proficiency without level column. Fire Breath is nice, but you can't fly and use it since you only get 2 actions for the summon. Exactly, Henry. Exactly. Because you're still a minion. KC was thinking the same thing about proficiency without level. Flame Loud says, I did a few tests with Summon Demon, and the summons just don't work. They can't hit, and they can't use their spells. I think it's slightly better than the other summon spells because of their breath weapons. I will agree with Total Entropy for one reason here. I think it's a little bit better than normal ones because you get the breath weapon for 2 actions. You can do the fire breath. And because of Draconic Frenzy, you could use your 2 minion actions to do 2 strikes, 2 fang strikes and 1 tail strike. So I think you can get 3 attactions out of this. So it's a little bit better, but not so good that I would still be excited about it. And I'm still going to put it at C. And anything with a DC doesn't work. And remember, you're using 3 actions to summon this creature. So, you know, you're already putting a lot into it. Damien is exactly right. Summons were broken in Pathfinder 1. Not only were they broken in terms of their power, they were just broken in terms of their impact on the table. Nobody wanted, you know, I played a summoner, like, especially when you cast a higher level summon spell and you would summon a couple of really, really choice creatures below, you get D3 or D4 plus 1. You know, when you were like level 11 or 13, you could summon D4 plus 1 Celestial Dire Lions or Celestial Dire Tigers. Those still really kicked ass in that game. And now suddenly I had 3 or 4 entire monsters with their own entire initiatives, with their own entire actions. It was really, really powerful. And so this summoning got the nerf bat really, really hard in this edition of the game. That's a great question, Lance. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to fix it in Pokefinder. Flame Loud, I swear there should be a D or even an F. Summoning is only good at levels 1 to 3. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I find it really hard to believe. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you wouldn't even hit anything. Correct, Tim. That's exactly right. Obviously, if you take it at a level higher, if you take it as a level 6 spell, but yeah, if you're level 10, now you're fighting, essentially, you're summoning a level 5 creature, and now it is party level -5. Yeah, but Lollipop, it's not even really summoning a bag of hit points. It's easy to ignore. They can. When it does, if they do swing at it for whatever reason, they'll probably crit it and to kill it, but most of the time they're just going to ignore it. It's not really going to do anything. Yeah. I feel like, though, that Total Entropy, I feel like this is an example of soft fudging, where like the party summons a monster and the boss the GM's like, oh great, this is a cool way for me to like show how badass the monster is. It's like a red shirt. It's like a great way for like for the GM to like, you know, see about how they could tear this creature apart, but you know, it's not really doing anything, but it's also not really hurting the party. So it's like a red shirt move. All right, Telekinetic Haul is our next spell. 2 actions, 120 feet. 1 unattended object with 80 bulk. Big Papa. With no dimension longer than 20 feet. So you can 20 foot by 20 foot by 20 foot. You can move the target, suspending it in midair. When you sustain the spell, you can do so again, or you can choose a different target to move. Well, this spell's cool. I like it. I don't know that you would need to cast this spell every day, but I don't know. This kind of seems like a B tier scroll. I would be happy to have one or two of these in my backpack. Oh, we need to move all these boulders. Boom. I cast it. And look at the spell. This is a spell, boys and girls. People of all ages, genders, and sexual orientations. Look at this. It's this long. You don't need it. William, yeah. If you cancel it, the object falls. You could choose a different object, and it does say you can suspend it in midair. It's not like you have to move it and end it on a different thing. So you could literally take an 80 bulk object, suspend it over something, and drop it. I think that's pretty great. I like that this spell does what it says it does, and it's big and it's powerful, it's magical. It's not like, oh, I can use magic to do something that we could do with our bare hands faster, quicker, and more efficiently. Damage by weight tables. All right, Telepathic Bond, aka we've been cheating the entire time, and now we finally have a spell that will allow us to cheat, but we're still not going to cast the spell because we've been doing this the whole time anyways. Telepathic Bond, it lasts for 8 hours. You and up to 4 creatures touched get fucked if you have a larger Pathfinder 2 party. This spell is telling you that no Pathfinder 2 party should be more than 5 people. And you get to telepathically communicate with all the targets as long as you're on the same planet. But we do that anyways, right? I'm going to put this as a C tier wand. All right, we got a couple more left. Temporary glyph. Yeah, I said 5 people. I said 5 people, Lollipop. I said don't have more than 5 people. More than 5 people. I would never run Pathfinder 2 for 6 people or more. 5 people would absolutely be my limit. Temporary glyph. We only got a couple more. 3 actions to make a glyph within 30 feet. It takes a 5-foot square and it lasts 1 minute. You temporarily bind a hostile spell into your glyph. When you cast the spell, you also have to cast another spell of lower level than the glyph. And the stored spell must take 2 actions or fewer. So say Fireball, but it'd have to be a level 4 Fireball. Any creature that enters the temporary glyph area activates the glyph and explodes the spell. You can set a password for the glyph. Speaking it when it enters the area prevents the glyph from blowing up. Once the spell is set, the glyph retains all the traits of the spell, but it lasts a minute? So obviously this is like a quick cast glyph of warding, but it only lasts a minute. Interesting. Yeah. I'm going to say D. Like, it's cool that it does what it does, but I hate that the duration is only 1 minute. I feel like the duration for a spell like this needs to be longer than 1 minute. I'm not saying it needs to be like all day, but I just... And then you're using up 2 spell slots. On the other hand, I mean, this spell does theoretically let you, you know... Yeah, but it doesn't heighten. I mean, you can heighten it so that you can put lower level spells in it, but it doesn't get any actual benefits or bonuses. I'm just a little bit disappointed in... I like most of this. I think 3 action is fine. Yeah, I don't know. I guess. But it's like... I might be being a little overly harsh. I mean, I would say like D+, but I really hesitate to call this spell a C. All right, tongues. Yeah, I agree, Flamelot. I think 10 minutes... Actually, yes, I think it's a D at 1 minute, and I think at 10 minutes, I do think it would be a solid B. So I actually agree with you both really clearly there. I think adding a 0 after there and making it 10 minutes. All right, tongues. Uncommon, because why would you want people to be able to talk to each other? You can understand all words and all languages, and it just works. And if you're in a mixed creature, everybody understands everybody, and it's great. and the duration is an hour, which is more than enough. I don't know, like A tier scroll. It's great. It does what it says. It works. If you need to talk to a bunch of different people and translate for a bunch of different people, you can. An hour is going to be more than enough. You'll probably never have to heighten this spell, unless you're like literally doing something like all day. I'm serving as the UN. I think most of the time, Flame Loud, you're going to be fine with this as a scroll. All right, transmute rock to mud. We have reached the pinnacles of power. We can travel through the shadow dimension. We can create explosive growths all over people's bodies and then cause people to vomit all over themselves. But now we can also make rock and mud. To be clear, AK, I think being able to wield fire and have it rain down from nothingness and blow up hundreds of yards away is probably on the same level as being able to talk to people. So I do think third level is a fine level for tongues. All right, but here we go. 3 actions to transmute rock and mud. It's 60 feet, so you're not using this thing in a siege. Unless you're standing next. I walk up next to the embankment of the wall. They kill you with siege weapons. Wait. I got to get within 60. Can't you just use reach spell? No, because it's 3 action spell, so I can never increase the reach of the spell. 2 adjacent 10-foot cubes. I can turn earthen material into mud or mud into rock. If you turn mud into rock, unworked stone turns into mud. Oh, mud turns into unworked stone. And they have to make a reflex save. So if your enemies, and there's a bunch of them, and they're in 10-foot cubes, and they're within 60 feet of you, and they're all standing in mud, and you spend 3 actions, then you have to make them make a reflex save as the very mud that they are standing in turns into living stone. What does that do? Oh no. Oh no, they're partially stuck and they're grabbed for a round. Because the ground that they were in turned into stone. If you were standing in mud and it was like ankle deep or knee deep and that turned into actual stone, you would not be grabbed, you would not be restrained, you would be stuck for all time. Or you can turn rock into mud. You can transform non-magical, unworked, and unattended stone. Haha, I turned their stone wall into mud. Well, it's got magical spells on it. Oh, come on. All right, fine. It's not. All right, but it's made of bricks. Come on. All right, fine. It's literally just a pile of boulders is what they're using for their wall. Well, now I could turn it into mud. Well, no. There's a guard, and he's standing guard, and he's, maybe he's got his hand resting on the wall, so it's attended. What is this spell for? If you cast a spell on a stone floor, it becomes difficult terrain. Oh my god. This spell gets a D. It definitely does transmute rock into mud, but it does it in the way that only Pathfinder 2 can. All right, we got 3 more spells. We've got Wall of Ice, and we've got Wall of Stone, and then we've got Wyvern's Sting. So let's get our walls out of order. I just cast Wall of Ice not too recently. Wall of Ice is a 3-action, 120-foot spell that lasts a minute, and you create an ice barrier. It's either a 1-foot thick ice wall, up to 60 feet long and 10 feet high. It doesn't have to be vertical, but it does have to be anchored on both sides to a solid surface. So that's cool. You can make sheets of ice, or you can make a 1-foot thick, 10-foot hemisphere of ice. The ice is opaque, which is great. It means you cannot see through it, which means you can't cast spells through it. It means you can't shoot through it. And if you wish, the wall can also have smaller lengths, heights, and radiuses. Every 10-foot section is AC 10, so auto hit, but it does have hardness 10 and 40 hit points, and it's immune to critical hits of precision, so that'll take a couple of hits even from a powerful creature. A section has weakness 15 to fire. That feels thematic. Of course, not that matters, because you can't fireball a wall of ice. You couldn't produce flame a wall of ice because those aren't creatures. So anyways, it's interesting. A section destroyed by the means other than fire leaves a chilling mass, and they take 2d6 points of cold damage as they move through it. Kind of irrelevant. This is a good wall. It does enough damage. It has enough hit points. It's large enough. It has enough flexibility in casting it. The hit points and the hardness are high enough, and the fact that it's opaque means that this spell actually functions as a wall. So that's Wall of Ice. And then we have Wall of Stone. Same level. It's 3 actions. It's 120 feet thick. It's a 1-inch thick wall of stone. That's that thick. It's interesting. But it can be up to 120 feet long and 20 feet high. And this one you get to shape. In Pathfinder 1, this would have had the S next to the area. And you could place each 5-foot section of the wall on the border between squares. So you get to like draw with a dry erase marker along the border lines of your grid. The wall doesn't need to stand vertically, so you can use it to form bridges or sets of stairs. You have to conjure it in an open space, and its edges cannot pass through any creatures or objects. And then its spell creates hardness 14, 50 hit points. And if it destroys, this spell is way better than Wall of Ice. And Wall of Ice is pretty okay. Wall of Ice, I think, gets all right. Don't get crazy on me on this. I think Wall of Ice is B tier. I think Wall of Stone might be S tier. I think Wall of Lance, it is immune to transmute mud and stone. I think Wall of Stones might be S tier. The fact that this is a really good wall with really long, high walls. The fact that you can shape it, that you can draw out a different wall. The fact that you can make it not vertical. The fact that you can use it essentially as architecture. You can form bridges or sets of stairs. This spell is awesome. This spell is cool. This spell is what a 5th level wall spell should be doing. Yeah, I think it's great. Very creative, very powerful. And I think this is S tier. I think Wall of Stone is really powerful. Yes, AK. I think maybe you definitely don't have to. Yeah, unlimited duration, AK. Unlimited duration. So obviously the campaign building aspects of this spell are insane, right? I mean, when you see this spell and you think, wait a second, imagine a world where you had a city or a group of people who are high level. What they could do. I mean, magic is free. I could cast, if I was a level 11 wizard, I would have 3 5th level spell slots and 2 6th level spell slots every day. And I could use that to take 3 5th level wall stones and 2 6th level wall stones. And that would mean me casting in a medieval fantasy world 5 spells a day, creating 120 feet long, 20 foot high sections of stone wall 5 times a day. That's 600 feet of 20-foot walls or 20-foot magical stone. No quarry. By the way, it's exceptionally tough, difficult, hardness 14, 50 hit points. The higher level one has even more hit points, maybe for an area of like the gatehouse or something like that, or a bridge. It's magically entreated stone. I can shape architecture with it. You could, an army corps of engineers, except an army corps of engineering wizards, owned by you would have roads that rival our modern day roads. You know how long it takes them? It's like, what is it? Like $1 million, like $10 million a mile or something to build highways. Okay. And yet, Kieran, you could not, because it is hardness 14 and 50 hit points. I mean, to be clear, Kieran, I mean, drywall is not even an inch thick. So this is like, also there's nothing that says that you can't make multiple walls of stone next to each other. So, I mean, how thick do you need your stone wall to be? I mean, it might be 1 inch thick, but it doesn't actually affect anything. And in theory, you could just, if you really wanted something to be like a foot thick, you could just cast 12 walls of stone sort of, layered on top of each other. This spell finally this spell finally explains the way that people make dungeons on graph paper, where you'll have a room here and a room here, and you'll have a wall drawn on the line, but it doesn't actually take up any space in time. It's just somehow immediate, like it somehow is like it's like a 2-dimensional wall. Last spell is Wyvern Sting, and this is a spoiler alert for Agents of Edgewatch. It's uncommon because it's coming from a adventure path. It has necromancy and poison. 2 actions, touch, yikes, fortitude, and you basically give them the Sting of the Wyvern. You do 3d4 piercing damage to the creature automatically. Wow, 3d4 damage. And then if any of that piercing damage makes it through to them, and again, it's automatic, so unless they have a really high resistance to piercing, it should, they make a save. If they succeed at the fortitude, well, if they critically succeed, they took the 3d4 piercing damage and they're done. If they succeed at the fort save, they take 5d6 poison damage and the 3d4 initial piercing damage, and then it's over. If they fail, they are inflicted with Wyvern Venom. If they critically fail, they're at stage 2. If they fail, they're at stage 1. Stage 1 is 5d6 poison damage. Stage 2 is 66 poison damage. And stage 3 is 8d6 poison damage with a maximum duration of 6 rounds. This is a pretty healthy damage over time. Obviously, you need them to fail this spell. Because here's the thing. We're level 5. Cone of Cold does 12d6 damage. Cone of Cold does 12d6 damage to an area of effect. And they have to fail 1 save. In this spell, they'd have to fail 1 save, then fail another save, just to take the same amount of damage as the Cone of Cold did. If they failed a 3rd save, then they will have taken more damage, 1 target, than Cone of Cold. Also, 6 rounds. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? I'm going to have to say that this is probably a C spell as well. Just because it's fine, and it's not like the damage is embarrassing or anything like that, but the fact of the matter is, especially for arcane casters, like this isn't what an arcane, this is not what a caster should be doing in Pathfinder 2. The single target damage is what martial characters are just going to be so much better at, and what the martial character can't do is deal with large groups of AoE, and that's just what it is. And the fact that it's touch is really kind of brutal, and maybe a magus could get some good use out of this, but even then it's the DOTs are rough because the creatures that are going to fail the save on this are also lower level. And these are the creatures that your party probably is going to take out anyways. Yeah, you cast Wyvern Vet on them. Yeah, they fail the save. They take 5d6 poison damage. You're like, all right. And then like a barbarian comes by and crits it and deals 122 to it, and then they're dead. And you're like, well, in theory, they might have taken 20d6 poison damage, but they didn't because they're dead because the barbarian hit it once. It doesn't give them any other form of debilitation. They're not sickened. They're not weakened. They're not, anything else. So, yeah, Boothby says no creature lasts 6 rounds. Ain't it the truth? All right, so that is level 5. Pretty balanced in terms of levels. Look at it. We always know we're going to get more Fs than S's, but we had 5 Fs and we had 2 S's. Kind of surprised, kind of dark horse S's. So that's pretty cool. Hey,
$20. Got to hit that goal.
Thanks, Anonymous. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Well, thanks to Anonymous, and thanks to some of the other folks who chipped in on this stream. Jason B, of course, from Paizo. Thanks, Jason. GM Scott, Rivo Grimm, Henry, Pillsbury Goat. And thanks to their, and now thanks to Anonymous, we have ourselves a completed goal. That means that we are going to try to do a live stream from Origins. I don't know if it might be a disaster because we've never done a remote live stream before, but hey, you'll be here to see it happen, and maybe we can answer your questions live. So it's fine. These spell tables, that's a good curve, I guess. But yeah, 2 S's, 5 F's, but then we literally had 6 A's and 6 D's with a good amount of B's, and then basically almost the same amount of number of C's, but just this +1 from Wyvern Sting. And, a couple of really reasonably good scrolls here. I was impressed with Pass Wall, Tongues, Telekinetic Haul, Sending. These spells all basically did what they said they were going to do, and, I think it's good. Flame Loud is throwing down a gauntlet. Flame Loud says, Derek, I know your stance on defensive chromatic spells, but at level 6, if you put chromatic image anything below B, we're gonna fight. Yeah, this is one of the closest spells groupings that we've had to a spell curve. So very, very cool. All right, well, we did it, everybody. I am very thankful. We finished up Arcane level 5, and that means we have now. By the way, level 5. Arcane was literally half the spells. So the second half of level 5 might just be the other spells because Arcane was literally like 57 or 58% of all the spells in level 5. So Divine, Occult, and Primal might just be another stream. But then after this, the total number of spells in level 6 is only like 40 spells. So, I think at level 5, it's like 87 or something, or 88. It's going to go down to like 40. And then it goes down to like 30, and then like 25, and then like 15. So after we finish up level 5, when we go to level 6, we're just going to be doing the spells, alphabetical order, and we'll talk about the traditions and how a given spell might be considered plus or minus to a given tradition. We're going to give it 1 grade overall, but we'll have these conversations. We'll talk about it and say, hey, this spell probably is better for Divine versus Occult. So there will be a little bit more nuance to it, and we'll be able to do that because there are so few of them. And hopefully we'll be able to get some people on here as well to have a little bit of change up here for the last couple of parts. Yeah, Total Entropy. We should be done by the end of summer. Let's see. If we stay on focus, we can get if we stay focused, we can usually get through 20 to 25 in a session. So it should take us 2 more to finish 5, and then 2 to finish 6, 2 to finish 7, 2 to finish 8, 1. So like 10, like 10 weeks, like 3 months. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me tonight. Appreciate you guys joining us. And of course, remember, if you've enjoyed these conversations and you're not already a member, feel free to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Knights of Last Call. There's a link in the doobly-doo below. We have a bunch of different tier options, but $5 is going to get you all access to all of our special bonus footage, access to our Northern Reaches community mega game, where we have like 60 or 70 players now, all playing in a living, persistent world. Very cool, as well as our bonus content. And of course, the real heart of it is talking about role-playing games, not just Pathfinder 2, but a lot of other games. This game just came in today. I talked about this on Tuesday. It arrived Wednesday. And after I sign off for this, I'm going to take a bunch of ibuprofen. I'm going to apply some more of this antibiotic. And then I'm probably going to read this and kind of call it a night. I look forward to seeing some of you on the Discord, if you're not already there. And we'll catch you next week, where we will be trying to go live. And on Tuesday, right before we leave for Origins, we are going to have our second episode of Quest for the Frozen Flame, which will be really, really cool. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope everybody has a wonderful recovery from their surgery, if you had one. And I think that's all I got. Thanks again to everybody who tipped. Thanks again for reaching that goal. And I look forward to seeing you all in the future on Knights of Last Call. Peace. Horizon Thunder.